Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of our SpeakOut series. I'm Rhiannon Wicks, and I'm the coordinator of the Bolt Foundation and the moderator for today's career discussion focusing on the area of project management. The Bolt Foundation has a very simple but important mission to inspire the next generation of construction professionals right here in the Greater Toronto Area. One way to do that is to ensure that young people have the information they need to choose a career that they are passionate about and can be successful in. This series facilitates the discussions on some of the in-demand careers in construction and how young people can get started. Our panel is made up of industry professionals, including employers and some senior staff members, to provide useful insights into the education and training requirements, physical demands, what to expect day to day, and advancement opportunities within the specific construction career. I want to acknowledge and thank our series sponsor, RBC Future Launch, for their generous support of this important initiative to help close the information gap and to get more youth interested in construction careers. Let's hear from our sponsors now.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Beckles and I'm the Vice President of Social Impact and Innovation here at RBC. Today, youth are the most unemployed age group in Canada, with almost 800,000 young Canadians not currently in employment, education, or training. Canada's skilled tradespeople that have long been the backbone of our economy are more critical than ever, and so is solving this sector's main challenges: the underrepresentation of women and immigrants, the need to double down on digital training, and the ongoing stigmas around trades careers. And while these challenges are significant, so are the opportunities. Through the RBC Future Launch partnership with Bolt, we aim to ensure that you understand what opportunities are available in the skilled trades industry and how to get started in a career that you are passionate about. Because at RBC, we see a future in your future.
Today's discussion focuses on the field of project management and some of the career opportunities available. Let's take a look at what a project manager does on a high-rise construction site.
Let's find out what a project manager does to discover if this career interests you. The project manager creates the project using their knowledge and experience. Up to a year before breaking ground, they work with the consultant team on design development and tendering contracts to subcontractors and suppliers. Once construction has started, they spend on average 1 day on site every week to make sure that problems are dealt with in a timely manner. Once the project is up and running, they manage the project with attention to the schedule, payments, cash flow, and managing the changes and extras. After a while, an experienced project manager becomes good at solving problems before they happen. You can be an expert, but that's not helpful if you cannot convey information effectively to the people around you. Good communication skills are one of the top skills that you need moving into the workplace.
So with that great visual of the work, let's meet our industry panel. So Erin, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself and your role and how you got started?
Okay, thanks, Rhiannon. I'm Erin Monopoly. I'm a project manager here at Tridel. I've worked at the company for almost 17 years. I started obviously in a more junior role and came up working in various positions on site before taking a position in project management. I've been with Vince in a few different capacities, and now I'm his project manager on our well project.
Awesome, thank you. And let's move over to John Paul over here, who also goes by JP.
Yeah, hi there. My name is John Paul Emerald. I'm assistant project manager with Tridel. I started a little over 2 years ago as a project coordinator and recently got promoted to an assistant project manager. And I work under this lovely lady beside me, Erin Monopoly.
That's awesome. And last but not least, Vince.
Thanks, Rhiannon. I'm Vince Merarki. I'm a VP of Project Management here at Tridel. I've been with the company for just over 27 years. I started also fresh out of university, came right on the field, work on a construction site, and a few years later came into the office, and from there on in, I've been in the project management sector of our industry, working on a variety of projects.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So let's dive in. And I mean, we got to see a little bit on that video on what project management is and sort of what it does. But Vince, let's start with you and just, what is a project manager and what does this profession do as part of the construction process?
All right. Well, the project manager reports directly to the project director or VP of project management. And basically, they're accountable for leading all the projects under their control. So they might have 2 or 3 projects under their belt, from pre-launch stage to the completion of occupant and project closeout stage. A project manager is also a highly detailed individual with the ability to meet deadlines and must be able to work very well under pressure. A project manager will also represent Tridel and Delterra in dealings with joint venture partners as the primary contact for the projects. For our company and our industry, a project manager proactively works with the project VP to recommend and manage changes to the project plans and budgets and reacts on a timely basis to implement changes. They also provide leadership and mentorship to 1 or more project leads and assistants or coordinators that they'll be supporting in the timely completion of our project initiatives. So at a high level, and I'm going to say very high level because there's too much detail to get into, our project managers deal with the due diligence stage of construction. This is a process that happens when we purchase a piece of land, and we have to do a few studies to make sure that it's a viable option to ultimately build. The concept stage, which is working with development departments, estimating, sales, finance, and other various departments within the organization to run a more detailed financial statement, which we refer to as a pro forma for the projects. Pre-sales stage, so prior to us going to sale, we work with various stakeholders to develop project details for anticipation of sales. That's the building elevations, what the suites look like, the features and finishes, the interior design of the building, establishing what those finishes are, and developing also legal documents called our condo docs. So the project manager works hand in hand and manages that process, as well the working drawing and pre-construction phase. This is managing the working drawing development with consultants to ensure Tridel's best practices are adopted. We have an internal document called the project life cycle, which is a sort of a step-by-step process in the project cycle itself. So our project managers know that we have to implement that during that phase in order to hit all our milestones and all our key deliverables to be successful. Collaborate with the site super on the site setup. So this is all pre-construction, right? The TMP, a traffic management plan, which sets out the gates, hoists, ramps, cranes, and develop occupancy and construction schedules, further develop them because we're ready to start construction and we have to have those things in places. And then the construction stage, the project manager will manage the tendering process, which is a big bucket of things, including sending out tender documents and awards and qualifications and the whole bit. Provide leadership and direction to project stakeholders, promote and reinforce and support safety initiatives, which are huge in our industry, and ensure that lead initiatives are also adhered to. Continue to manage a project schedule and budget throughout the course of construction together with the super, which is super important for us. While we're under the construction phase, there's also the customer care portion. So our project managers support our customer-facing teams. They provide detailed info as they need it in order to convey that to homeowners. They monitor the decor process that has to be in line with their schedule. So if somebody's making changes to the suites, we have concrete. We pour concrete. They got to make sure that those changes get in before we pour concrete, or else it's a lot more complicated to make those changes. So that we got to work hand in hand with our care teams. Assist in communication with homeowners if necessary, and coordinate various processes in our project life cycle prior to the homeowner inspections. So there's a bunch of steps we take prior to the homeowner walking onto our site. And the final stage is the occupancy stage, or the project closeout. So our project managers ensure the Tridel Ready standard. We have a certain standard that we expect to hit on every project. This is actually a new term. It used to be called the Hotel Ready. So this is the first moment a homeowner steps foot in their new home. This is the standard that we expect across our organization. It manages the efficiency process, pre's and posts, pre-delivery, pre-move-in, and post after they move in. So they're involved in that. Deal with difficult homeowners. There's always issues that come up, so they got to deal with the issues as they arise. and support our sales and marketing teams on standing inventory, coordinating internal technical audits, managing and preparing turnover documents, which is a big process in itself when we're ready to turn the condominium over to a board. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's the 5 or 6 major steps that our project managers are all responsible for on their individual projects. Yeah.
So a big job, and definitely something that we consider in the construction industry. This is a professional career. This is something that you're going to have to study for. You're going to have to go to school for. So maybe on that note, Erin, maybe you can jump in and tell us, like, what do you have to take in school? Where, college, university, how many years?
Yep. So I did a 4-year undergrad at Ryerson, now TMR, and I studied urban planning.
Okay.
And originally that was my goal, was to get into the planning and development sector, and I was, kind of looking for a career in that at Tridel. I ended up kind of just going with the flow of what was available and started through the other avenue and working my way up through the construction side. I did get to a point where I felt like I was lacking a little bit of the technical knowledge. Okay. And although I felt my education that I had was still very applicable to what I was doing, I felt that the technical side was a little bit lacking. So I did pursue some continuing education in construction management at George Brown. Awesome. For a few courses, and I just felt it helped me have a little bit more confidence to kind of keep pursuing down the avenue in construction management and project management.
Great. So you have you did your undergrad in urban planning, and then you bridged into construction management to get sort of the technical knowledge.
Yes.
That's awesome. JP, what was your sort of education avenue?
So I actually have an irregular path to this industry. I actually went to the University of Guelph for accounting.
Okay.
After my first semester, I realized accounting was not for me. And then I switched over to business management with a major in project management.
That's why you're so good in numbers.
So what's good about the Guelph program is you learn about the technical side of the budgeting tools, scheduling tools, but like Erin said, you kind of lack that knowledge of the on-site construction ways. So the best way for me, I didn't do another diploma. I actually started on site as a site coordinator and learned the fundamentals of building a high-rise building through that.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Great. So there's, clearly there's a few different paths to be able to get into this sort of project management side of things. But it seems like, a foundation in in construction management, right? So, like George Brown does have an excellent course in project management and construction management. So, that seems to be, regardless of the professional pathway you may choose in university, having that knowledge and the technical knowledge in construction is definitely supremely important.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And do you agree?
I totally agree. Myself, I came out of university undergrad at Ryerson, today called Metropolitan University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Architecture. Right out of school, I came to work in the field, so I didn't really get a chance. I thought I was going to go work as an architect, but once I started working at Tridel, that kind of vision kind of dissipated very fast, and I went on a course to project management. So ever since, that's the path I took. But we have people from engineering, civil, structural. There's people here from development, right? Urban planning. So from all aspects of the industry.
Great.
Yeah.
I bet every person brings, like a really important aspect to, construction. Right, it's not every building's the same, not every neighborhood's the same, not every,
right.
All the needs vary based on, the project itself, right? So I guess the more, the greater scope and, the more rounded you have of people, everybody gets to bring something to the table.
Yeah, you're never going to get somebody that's fully rounded. There's way too much to know.
Yeah.
So
Clearly.
you learn a lot when you're here, and it's a great training ground for people that are starting in the industry to use the skills that they learned in school, and yet learn other skills that are available with the people around them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I learned something today too. Every day I walk in this office and I learn something new. But obviously I know what project management is, but the way that you described in some of the different pillars that you have to work under, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And that's it's a lot. It's a big job, right? So considering obviously you're not going to walk in the door and become the VP of project management, so where do you start? So JP, you mentioned you started as a site coordinator.
Yep.
So that's a different department.
Yeah, so you're on the site super side, on the construction side of the industry, and yeah, starting as a site coordinator, you kind of learn, like I said before, the fundamentals of how to build a high-rise building, from concrete to finishing to building envelope to occupancy. So whoever wants to start in this industry, I highly recommend starting on site and just taking your time to learn as much as you can before you push yourself to the next stage, because the more prepared you are, the better you're going to be at your job.
The industry's been a little unique lately, where you know that learning process from the site level to project management hasn't happened over the last few years because we've been so saturated with work. But it truly is. He nailed it on the head. You know, starting from site, at least 1 or 2 years, and getting that under your belt before you come into the office and pursue a career in project management is super important. It exposes you to a lot of things you probably would never see otherwise, right? So
Right.
It's a great learning ground, for sure.
Yeah. I think, Erin, you also mentioned that you started on site as well, but did you start a different role on site?
No, I started in construction as well. I think site management absolutely prepared me for a project management role. So, you're working hands-on. You're not physically on the tools, but you're with the various trades and owners of companies, the safety aspect, as Vince mentioned, and you see a lot of things in real time that, you know, when you're then in the future kind of working as a project manager, writing contracts, you understand how something's built. You understand how long something takes to build. And you also know different ways of doing things when you work on various sites and under different management styles. And I also think that it's helped me as a project manager just with the social aspect of dealing with all different personality types. You deal with everything from a security guard to an owner of a company and everything in between. And you have to be able to navigate all of those different relationships because they're all very relevant to what we do.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's good to know. You know, in any job that you sort of undertake at any point, you'd be surprised at the amount of the different people that you're going to have to work with, or sell to, or it's just having sort of that scope of being able to just interact with people is just such a big part of any job.
Yeah.
You know, Erin, it's something that Erin's very good at. I got to deal with Erin on site on several occasions, so. But. So if this is a big job and there's a lot involved and every day is different. So walk me through, maybe like JP, let's start with you, and like walk me through what your day would look like. And I know you work very closely with Erin, so maybe you two can tag team this question a little bit. And like, what does a day look like?
So I think the beauty of this industry and project management as its own entity is the day is not predictable. Mm-hmm. The day usually starts with a couple phone calls before you get to the office. By the time you get to the office, your day completely changed. Right. So to break down a day-to-day
impossible.
It's legitimately it's impossible. Whoever can explain it is probably not doing it right then.
Got it.
I think too, it depends on the stage of the project. Mm-hmm. The earlier stage of the project, design development, going through the construction drawing preparation stage, even when we're doing the tender process and awarding contracts, you're a little bit more scheduled with that, right? You have meetings set up. Then when you get into construction, that's when you're kind of on the fly. Yeah. And you're dealing with a lot of stuff live as it comes up, lots of phone calls, troubleshooting problems,
putting out fires,
various things, literally and figuratively.
No pun intended.
So, I think that's the beauty. If that's your personality type, is that you're never bored, right? Because there's always tons going on.
Mm-hmm. You'll be able to pivot.
Yeah.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. Constantly pivoting. You grease the hinges a little bit to pivot properly.
Good, that's awesome. So, a career obviously that you need to be on your feet and prepared and ready, and just to tackle, you don't know what's coming at you, right? So you think about, in the construction phase, when I've been down at the well, I used to work down at the well, and it's one of Tridell's developments down at on Wellington Street. So, you know, you walk in the door and it's like, and it looks ready, and then you go further and further and further, and there's so much that's happening behind the scenes, you have no idea. You know, and we're doing a walkthrough and we're looking at the different lockers, and it's like, and they're realizing as they do walkthroughs, all the different things that they have to tackle that day, you know? So it's like, it's, as an outsider looking into a project management role, it looks like a lot of fun, but I can only imagine what it's actually like day to day.
Yes.
Right? So given that, Vince, what's your experiences like as a VP? I mean, obviously it's like a big job.
Well, a little different, right, than being a PM. The PM kind of fields all the issues first. They're the point person on the project, so a lot of the stuff goes back to them, like day-to-day activities. And like they said, their days can change. You know, today you might have, you know, planned out to do A, B, C, and then you get a flood, or you get a fire, or there's an emergency you got to deal with, or there's a consultant you got to chase down, or a trade that needs to do something. So it's always shifting and changing, and priorities always change, and there's always something that's going to go astray. It never goes perfect. So, you know, you got to be able to work well under pressure, and it is a very high stress environment, but it's, for me and for a lot of people, I like to say, it's a fun environment. It's diverse, it's different. You're not always sitting at a desk. If you want to go to the site, you can go to the site. It's the best place to be while you're under construction. And before that, it's a lot of planning work, right? We got to predict things like, you know, 4 years down the road, the hoist, what's that going to look like when we have people moving in? We got to take it down. It's got to be off the building. We got to plan that all in sequence for people moving in 4 or 5 years down the road. So the job is huge, but with the support of all these experienced people, you're able to make that decision, right?
That's awesome.
My job as a VP, though, is a little differently. You know, I used to be hands-on, and I loved it, but I don't now. But sometimes when I get dragged in, I work hand in hand with the executive vice president of the organization. It's more high level, you know, leading a number of construction projects. Aaron's one of my PMs. I have PMs that are working on other developments as well, and other teams. At a given time, you know, we work collaboration with key leaders, functional partners, third-party consultants. We're basically responsible as VPs for overseeing the planning and execution and successfully delivering on multiple construction projects and ensuring that they're completed on time, budget, and with the highest quality standards, you know, that the company mandates. I love what I do. I love the fact that, you know, I too can leave and join my team and go to the site and have a walk, and we talk and see and discuss. And I mean, my day changes as well, just like theirs. So sometimes we're putting out fires on Aaron's job. Sometimes it'll be somebody else's jobs. It's constantly shifting. So it's a lot of fun.
That's great. So it seems like it's more than just, you know, these university level diplomas or degrees and college level diplomas and things like that. It's like, it's also about the skills that you bring as a person.
Yes.
Right? So you need to be able to pivot. You need to be able to work well under pressure. You have to be able to work as a team and also independently. And it seems like these are all, you know, really important skills that you would need to be successful in this job. Right? If I'm hearing things correctly.
Yeah.
Which I think can be true of most jobs, right? But there are some jobs that are maybe require a little less collaboration or things like that. But you also work across many different departments, right? So it's not just project management. You also mentioned that you work with customer care, which is a different department that we have here at Tridel. Are there other departments that sort of you cross over with?
We really touch all the departments. It's estimating, it's development, it's sales and marketing, it's customer care, it's everyone. We're sort of the center, and that we're all feeding information, you know, to these various departments so we can get our individual jobs done, right?
Right. That's awesome.
But you said it, like, I mean, you're dealing, in the morning you might be dealing with a tradesperson, right, that is asking a question about, you know, how am I gonna, you know, nail this piece of wood into this small little area, and then in the afternoon you could be dealing with, you know, the ownership for the company, and he's asking you questions on financial statements and pro formas, right? So you're changing your demeanor constantly to try and deal with the audience that you're speaking to, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
it's,
different hats.
different hats,
points
we're
of
wearing
the
different
day,
hats.
not different days. Throughout the day, costume changes. So, I mean, it seems to me like, you given sort of the professional nature of the job and sort of the fast-paced environment that you're working in, what would, and maybe I'll start with you, Aaron, and we can sort of move down the table, but what would you find like the most rewarding and then maybe also the most challenging as, every day progresses?
I would say the most rewarding and the most challenging is the workload and the contribution to the project. So it's twofold. I mean, it's hard what we do. We're managing a lot of things, as Vince kind of like stated, the high level of everything that we do. So that is, that's the rewarding part, is that we had our hands in all these pots, right? And we get to participate and use our experience to influence and drive the process. But it's also a lot of pressure, right? Because a lot of people, they rely on us, they come to us. And some, personally, sometimes I feel that weight, that it's a lot. But sometimes you just gotta, we're multitasking on a million things, but you can only really do one thing at a time. So you kind of gotta narrow it back to,
the most important thing.
Yep. Yeah. And kind of, set priorities and go from there.
Yeah, awesome.
For me, definitely the most rewarding part is starting, seeing a plain, flat piece of ground, and then eventually seeing a hole, and then eventually seeing a concrete structure, and then people moving in. Seeing people move into something that was ground maybe 2-3 years ago is extremely rewarding, especially knowing how much work that goes into the building. For me, that's definitely the most rewarding. And for the most difficult part, I think we already branched on it and touched on it, is how much knowledge you need to be successful as a project manager, even as an assistant project manager. Because if you don't have a vast amount of knowledge in every industry, because we deal with every single trade, concrete, finishing, every single one. So that's definitely the hardest.
Okay. Vince, what do you think? Anything to contribute to?
I'll add, mine's very simple. We start the process 5, 6, 7 years sometimes prior to the finished product being standing and occupied. And when it goes from a piece of paper and a couple of sketches, lines, the most rewarding part for me is when you're able to drive by and say, hey, this is a building that's going to be here forever, right? Yeah. It's going to be here longer than me, and we were responsible for it. Another part is hearing the end user speak positively, right? There's a certain level of, appreciation that you gain when you hear somebody say something positive about the project, and the happiness and how happy they are to be living in it, right? You don't want somebody to not like or be disappointed in things. And when you hear those things, as real as they are, not everybody's experience is going to be perfect. It's hurtful, right? Because you want to make sure everybody's experience is great. So that's one of the most rewarding ones, and at the same time also some of the more challenging ones. You don't want to hear that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So that's in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think, especially when you're dealing with customers, like your goal is to always try to please everybody, but the reality of pleasing everybody is not a reality, right?
Yeah,
and I think in any sort of customer service position, you do the best you can with the cards that you're dealt, and Tridel has a really stellar reputation for fulfilling what they say they're going to do, right? So you say we're going to build it's going to look like this, and your suites are going to be like this, and and they prove time and time again, and that's thanks to you, the project management teams and the sales and marketing teams, and there's so many people that go into constructing a building, right? And the fact that you're able to do so under so much pressure is commendable, because I don't know if I can do it. So one question that we get quite frequently about any sort of career aspect is, how long it sort of takes you to get to the top, or as close to the top as possible, and then also what the pay structure looks like. So how long from, if you're going to start as a site coordinator, as you suggest, that might be the best place to start with a year or two on site, and then you're going to branch into project management. How long are we looking to be a project manager? What do you roughly?
I think it will take anywhere at a minimum from when you start as a project coordinator to a project manager, and to be a well-versed qualified project manager, it'll take at least seven years.
Wow.
To go through the different positions. Yeah. The thing that's key for a good project manager that I think we've all kind of echoed is the experience. And experience literally just takes time.
Yeah.
And you have to see the project cycles. And the project cycle is so long, it's several years.
Right.
So how can you become, a project manager if you haven't gone through that cycle at least a few times to have the experience in order to properly do the job? So I think about 7 years.
Maybe a little. Everybody's path is a little
Yeah.
bit different
Yeah.
because their
Absolutely.
ability to absorb information and move quick. But we have a great learning ground. Typically I want to say you're in a position for about 2 years, like at a certain level, and you're starting off as a coordinator and then moving to senior coordinator, and that's meant to mimic the cycle of a construction project, right? And your
Right.
involvement. So. By the time 10 years-ish or so comes, you're probably up there at a PM level or close to it, if not, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to, like Aaron said, there's a lot to absorb. It's not just the cycle, it's the exposure to the consultant, management side of it. It's exposure to the legal side of it. It's the construction phase was one piece that I kind of mentioned out of about 6 steps, right? So to have that exposure takes a little bit of time, and we want to make sure nobody fails in their jobs, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
And just for people upcoming, like that want to come into this industry, take your time, because time is the most important thing in this
Yeah.
industry for sure.
Yeah, don't rush it, absorb it,
Yeah.
appreciate it, work through it.
Try to
definitely-
better yourself every day.
Absolutely, collaborate. And it's like, and I think like constructive criticism is like something that I personally love, right? Because it's like you're never going to get it all right the first time, and you need to be able to take that in and just learn from your peers and your colleagues and the people that are trying to teach you and help you progress in your career, right? And at the end of the day, I think especially my experiences at the company, everybody has your best interest at heart, right? So you want to be able to rely on the people that you work with to help guide your career path, right? So and you don't learn that on your own. So and then pay. What are we talking about for pay? And obviously that it grows as you grow, but what would we think?
I'm going to say that at a low level, you're looking at an entry level at about 50 or 60,000
Okay.
As starting salary, right? Depends if you work on site as a clerk, maybe that might be a little bit lower, and you can make upward of close to 200 at the higher end, right? So I mean, it's like I said, it all depends on how much you have on your plate, how much you're taking in, how much you're working on, your ability to take on additional work, right?
Yeah.
So,
You put in your time.
yeah, you put
Be
in your time,
patient.
be patient. Yeah.
Enjoy your time,
Yeah.
and I think it's like one thing that, and I've been guilty of it myself too, is that you rush it. You want to get to that high level as fast as possible, but slow down and enjoy it. And
There's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn in so many different careers, right? And as we've said it time and time again, there's like project management hits so many different fields of work,
Yeah.
right? So just because you're a project manager, you also, you're in customer service, you're in finance, you're in, your development, there's just so many aspects to the job, right? So take it in, enjoy it. Let's pivot a little bit. So what would you think would be the most important, maybe it's not a total pivot, what is the most important skill somebody could bring to the table that's not something that you're going to learn at university necessarily? What is an inherent quality?
For me, it's just drive. You have to be driven to want to succeed and want to grow in this industry. You're going to be your biggest anchor, your biggest successor. It's up to you to see if you want to succeed or not.
Awesome.
No one else is going to hold you back in this industry.
Yeah.
Attitude, huge, right? Attitude is huge. Remember, the people that you deal with at a junior level may have been with the company for 30, 40 years, 20 years. They're going to look at you as like a nobody. You got to earn that respect, right? You got to show them that you're willing to learn and show them that you're willing to provide information and work with them. Remember, JP, for instance, is with the company as an APM. He's got to deal with a super that's been with us possibly for 20 years or 15 to 20 years. So he's got to gain a certain level of trust and respect from that individual to carry out his job. And it's a hard thing to balance. Some people can't deal with that, right? Or they find it hard to deal with, but it's an important part of the job, right? So attitude is huge.
And that's like an old school aspect of earning your stripes, which is
Right.
it's really rewarding too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When I got promoted to project manager, one of the senior guys in the office, when he congratulated me, he said, "You are now officially the hardest working person on the project." And I thought, well, I already am, right? But he said, don't think now that you've made it, that you get to sit back and let everybody do the work, because it's now all on your shoulders, and everything that doesn't happen, you got to fill in the gaps, and you got to kind of show up for and be there for everybody. So, I mean, from a junior level to a senior level, I think being self-motivated and understanding priorities and how to navigate competing priorities and multitasking. These are things that you learn, but I think it's also an inherent thing. As an individual, can you organize yourself to kind of get through the day-to-day? Because as we said, there's so many things coming at you. Your days are always different, and you have to kind of satisfy all these things and know how to do that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Not something that's, and I think actually some of these skills you're born with, right? Like some people are just naturally good at these things, right? So I think that it's okay to look within and wonder, like, am I going to be good at this job? Am I going to be? And if you're not sure, that's okay. Ask the right questions. You know, if I thought I could be a project manager, I would go to any of these individuals and say, okay, here's what I think I bring to the table, but in reality, what do I really need? So I think that they've really touched on some of these really important, something that might also be called soft skills, that are just inherent as you grow as a person. Maybe you're born with them, maybe you're not. Maybe you've worked really hard to, bring those qualities of passion and drive and enthusiasm and patience. Patience, obviously, it takes time. It takes time to be a project manager. And plus you went to school, right? So you did your, if your diploma was, anywhere between 2 and 4 years, and then you went back for a bit, or you put in your 2 years as a coordinator, or this is all, that's a minimum of 4 years right there. Right, and now you need to get to work. So,
That's right.
yeah, what else, what do you think, if, obviously we're talking from a Tridel-Delterra perspective, right? Is this sort of a similar career path or career trajectory that's at other developers? Like when you're a project manager, is anybody able to sort of speak to?
I don't know.
Oh.
I was born here, so
Erin mentioned she's been here for 17 years.
I think that it's a similar trajectory in terms of what you're doing. It's maybe the timelines could be a little bit different. I think the established developers and the ones that have longstanding employees such as Vince, they really do see the value in having really experienced people in certain roles that they're absolutely qualified and capable of doing. I don't think it's a secret that you could go and work somewhere else and get a higher position that maybe I wouldn't be qualified to get at this company, but I could get it there. And I think that that's maybe a personal decision, what you feel is right for you. Personally, the amount of responsibility that it is, I mean, we're building buildings that people are going to live in. You have to be completely competent in the role and what you're contributing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other organizations, just because you're called a project manager or you're titled as a project manager doesn't mean you really are in Tridel's eyes or Delterra's eyes, right? We know what project manager at Delterra can do and what they've been sort of raised to do, and their ability and their skills. I've had the luxury of sitting with people from other organizations that were project managers, and I can tell you that there's a huge disparity in some, not all organizations, but a lot out there. So, I mean, you got to be cautious when you're looking at that, and understand that a project manager here with our organization holds a huge load on their shoulders, right? With what they know, the knowledge base that they have. So, there's a big disparity, I would say.
Okay.
Your trajectory
Yeah.
in another organization might be a little bit sharper to get to where you want to get, but in terms of the knowledge you've gained, is probably a fraction.
Okay. Yeah, I think some of the trades too, and when you talk about, I mean, obviously there's so many different, and when we talk about trades, it's like a big word, right, that encompasses so many different skills and organizations and credentials and all of those things. So it's not, in some of these more professional careers, it's not always as cut and dry as you start as a project lead and then you're, or coordinator to lead to junior to senior. It's not always like that, right? So I think that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want to be, a project manager and you're going to start at the bottom, that might look different somewhere else than it does here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So, but I think that at the end of the day, regardless of where you're applying or where you see your career ending up, the most important thing to remember is that you need to start at the bottom and you need to take your time. Yeah. And you really, really need the how did you word it? The construction knowledge, but you used a different term.
Oh, I can't remember.
Okay, it was a good term. So if you once this is uploaded, rewind and figure out what that term was, because it's good, the technical construction knowledge.
Okay.
So knowing what that is going to be beneficial regardless of which company you're at, right? If you're working for a developer, because obviously we're speaking from the perspective of, high-rise condominium development, the advice that they're providing with you today is going to take you to any company. It just might look different somewhere else in terms of length and titles, right?
Absolutely.
What else? What else can we talk about? That am I missing anything that's important to discuss for project management? I'm clearly not a project manager. I'm a coordinator for the Bolt Foundation. So I don't have, the practical knowledge that the three of you have. So what's important? What am I missing?
I think another key component of this job is communication.
Okay.
Like we said before, we're on the phone a lot, and also internal communication with your team. Because I might get some information that might get relayed onto me, which both Aaron and Vince might need to know as well. And if I forget to relay that information back to them, it's lost knowledge, and that could end up as a problem on site too. So communication is very important, and the way you communicate to people as well, because you deal with a lot of different types of personalities on and off site.
Diplomatic.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, another thing to sort of bring to light here is that on top of everything that we got to do, or they got to do for a project, there's another piece. It's email, right?
Oh God.
Email is a huge stressor in the industry, because I always tell them, people ask me sometimes, why do you come in here so early? Well, I come in here early because I got to clean up my email from last night before I get to 9 o'clock, because once 9 o'clock hits, then
More's coming.
Chaos.
chaos.
End of the day.
It's phones, it's the ringing, it's the fires, right? So managing emails so that you're not overwhelmed by them and you're not missing something, it has become a huge part of the job. I mean, a lot of it is through email, but I want to encourage everybody who is on the call to understand, when you do come in the industry, emails are great, but picking up the phone and speaking to somebody and talking to them is even better, or meeting with them is even better. It creates a relationship. A lot of our work is about relationships. And if you don't have that bond, that creation, that one-on-one with somebody, you're never going to create that relationship, that bond, right? We got to work hand in hand with some of these trades and consultants and the people we meet in our industry for years and years and years on a project. So the last thing we want is to create that separation through just email, right?
Of course.
It's important.
Yeah, and you also accomplish things much quicker over the phone,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
You send an email, and you're hoping that somebody's going to respond instantly, but that's not the reality, right? So if you send an email and you need an answer that day, and you don't get your answer to the next day, pick up the phone. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, our success is really in the hands of everybody else, right? Our consultants that design the building and our trades that build the building and everybody else that goes into it. We're just kind of managing the tasks and, directing in some capacity, but it really is kind of in their hands.
Yeah.
So having those good relationships like Vince said, and having effective communication, it really gets you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. you know, it's something that is easily forgotten because, yeah, we do rely so much on email to communicate with one another. But I'm really glad you brought that up because it is so true. You know, I think, and I'm guilty of it myself too, where I send an email, okay, I did that. But wait, did I actually hear back?
Yeah.
Was I, you know, did I actually follow up?
Yeah.
Or have we not even closed this part yet? Right? So it is, you know, I love that communication's been, you know, brought up as like really important.
And on top of that, when you're starting off, you know, my mandate or my advice to people starting in the industry is, you know, you got to put away 2 days a week and walk the site. You know, sit there and walk the site top to bottom, whether and ask the questions. That's how you learn, right? Hey, what is that piece of steel over there? What are they drilling over there? Some people might not know. They might have never seen something like that before when they start off in the company or in the organization. I came from, you know, school, you know, learning about architecture. I physically didn't know what things looked like. So when I saw them, it was like, oh, wow, okay, well, being in the field for 2 years helped me learn, oh, that's the way they do that. Oh, and that's the way they form a deck. And that's the way they tie steel. I get it now, right? So it starts to click together. But, you know, at first, you know, I always tell somebody when they start, for the next 2 months, you're just going to get bombarded. Just learn and absorb. And then you're going to start asking questions, right? So just slowly, you got people, experienced people here, people that are mentoring you, that are going to guide you through the process and to learn. But one of those key learning keystone, these steps are, you know, going to the site and at least twice a week, making that time, half a day, and walking the site.
That's great.
You learn a lot from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still try and do it today. Maybe not twice a week, but once a week.
He does.
That's awesome.
I don't feel fulfilled in my role if I don't walk the site once a week. So
That's great.
it's an important step.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet too, like with you know, these sustainability models that they're bringing into construction too, there's like a whole new learning curve now as well, right? Things are being done differently
Oh yeah.
constantly. You know, I was in Graham's office the other day and there's this like teeny tiny little thing and I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, well, that's going to replace something that's like this big right now. And I'm just like, oh, okay, awesome. But, you know, it's just like, and so I can only imagine dealing with that as well. You know, just like the evolving aspect of sustainability and try to make, and, you know, Tridel is a green builder and has, you know, consistently every year wins Green Builder of the Year because of the efforts that are put in. But I'm sure that's a huge part of your job as well, right? Is sort of like managing that.
It is, and it's a way for us to even stay ahead of competition, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to evolve and change and do things better and modify how we do things. I mean, the innovation is huge for us. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes you're not with innovation, but
Absolutely.
but we're the first ones to say, okay, we're not afraid to try it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's definitely part of the job. Another thing, you know, that changes how you would typically, you know, knew how to do something, and now it's changed a little bit. It's a little bit different. So it's another learning step. It's another process you got to learn, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely. Got to be willing to like think on your feet and just pivot every step of the way. I think over COVID, that was like a big word, was pivot. Like, how is everybody going to pivot? But I feel like that's your job. It's like, you know, has been this constant, you know, every day you're ready, and maybe halfway through the day, multiple times a day, you're ready to be like, okay, I was going to do that, but now I'm going to do this. And then like this new technology, and we'll try that here. And, you know, so you're constantly thinking how, you know, how the rest of the day is going to unfold. So I've had these conversations where you're like typical day to day is this, but clearly that is not the case as a project manager.
doesn't always work out.
Unfortunately not.
And maybe to some that might be like very overwhelming and good for them to know, right? Because some people, like, you really need routine, structure, you know, and you might have that in terms of your schedule, but not in terms of your tasks.
Yeah.
So is project management like a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or is there an expectation for, you know, anything
I think
outside of that scope?
It definitely can be, and I think your workload can go up and down, and depending on the project you're on. I haven't really found much of a 9 to 5 on this project.
Okay.
But a lot of it is the email, right?
Yes.
And also wanting to get the most out of your 9 to 5. So I'll prioritize my phone calls and my site visits and my meetings. And then if I have to catch up on my emails in the evening, I mean, that's a personal choice. I probably don't have to do it. but I like to get that inbox at 0.
Yeah.
By the time I get in the morning, and I flood his, and then he's reading mine at 7 a.m. Right? But I think, yeah, for the most part, it's a 9 to 5, but it is a packed day.
Okay.
You have to be efficient with your time, being self-managed and motivated. That'll keep you within a reasonable working time, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
Awesome. Managing your schedule, managing those, like, okay, these are my 911 items, and sort of, going down the list of things that need to be tackled that day, right? So, wonderful. So we'll like start to sort of slowly wrap things up here, but I think the last thing I want to ask everybody, and we'll sort of one at a time, what is your advice to anyone who's interested in pursuing the career of project management? Where would you start? And maybe Vince, we'll start with you, and work our way down.
So again, I'm a huge promoter that, when you're starting in the industry, starting from site and gaining that 1 to 2 year experience being down, you may decide to say, you know what, I don't want to go into, I like it here. I'm gonna stay on the field. I like the way things happen here. I like the activities that happen here. But having that under your belt is definitely great to have before coming into the office and working in our environment in project management. Just to have the visual, the touch, what everything is. You have a base for the things you're going to be exposed to when you're reading a scope and you're reading an item and it talks about corner beat or whatever the case may be. It's like corner. What is that, right?
Yeah.
What's corner? Oh yeah, I remember what that was, right? So as simple as that might be, and he's laughing because he says, "Oh, come on." There have been people that have, in the past that have said, "Hey, what's the cement board, right? Why do you use cement board in a pool?" Or so having that knowledge, that encyclopedia of words, right, that go hand in hand with our job and our career is important. And one of the ways to learn it is to be on site, and hear them and see them, right? So for me, that's super important. And then, once you're in the office, it really becomes, that stepping stone. So when you're a coordinator dealing with the administrative tasks and going through a process and doing it well and mastering it to move on to other things. And we're pretty good at, releasing work to people and slowly migrating them into higher level things and higher level thinking and, more important tasks. And the pace is determined, it's all dependent on the person and how fast they're able to absorb the information. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. JP?
I don't remember the question.
That's okay.
Advice.
Advice for somebody who wants to get into the field of project management.
So some advice that I would give to someone that's just starting to get in the industry is do your due diligence on the companies that you want to work for. I feel that the company that you work for is a big deterrent if you're going to like the job or not. I'm speaking from experience. My time at Tridel has been amazing. I've had some other experience that haven't been so great that have deterred me from this industry. So definitely be patient and be observant of the companies that you want to work for and make a good choice.
Good advice. Erin, last but not least.
So my advice is I don't believe in fake it till you make it.
Okay.
I believe in being authentic and being curious and asking questions because that's how you learn. I think we all kind of touched on the theme of building the experience level to kind of get there. And that's my advice is get an education, start from the ground up, work on site, learn as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can, and just absorb all the things that you're learning from, all these experience in the field. And, one day you're gonna wake up and realize like, wow, I know a lot. I am a project manager.
That's excellent advice.
So that's my advice.
So I'm going to take all of this advice and apply it to my career as a coordinator for the Bolt Foundation, because I think this advice also does stem to, really at the end of the day, like any job you're going to do, right? So if you're going to, you start at the bottom and you learn everything you can and you vet the companies you're going to work for and you try so hard in your authentic self, like that's advice that you can take with you, like just as a human being. So thank you to all three of you for your, incredible efforts here today. And I know I certainly learned a lot today, and I'm very grateful because every time I get to do these things, I feel like I have, that much more knowledge to be able to, fully one day understand, the construction industry and just how vast it really is. And there's so many different careers available in construction, everything from these, extremely professional careers to, like anything, truly anything. So if there are any questions at all, by all means, please email us, bolt@tridel.com. If we don't, we're not going to get to them at this point, but, happy to answer them by email. And I can reach out to, my lovely colleagues over here who will provide me with the proper answers, because I'm not going to fake it till I make it. I will ask them for the answers. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in today, and we hope you have a great evening.